Hello, and thank you for attending today's webcast on retirement counseling tips. My name is Joy Fisher,
And I'm Patricia Staple.
and we are from OPM's Benefit Officer Development and Outreach Team. We have an allotted time of 1 hour and a half for today's presentation, and there will be an opportunity to submit your questions. For any questions that you may have, you may email benefits@opm.gov. In the subject line, please add retirement counseling tips so that we may address your question during today's presentation. Our objectives today are counseling and retirement planning tips, common causes of retirement delays, and retirement resources. We will explore key times in the federal career that are significant and optimal times to maximize opportunities to educate our employees on their benefits and retirement planning tools. We will also discuss the most common items that contribute to retirement delays and how to reduce or eliminate those errors. And finally, we will share some of the many resources available for retirement planning. As we will touch on a variety of topics during today's webcast, we want you to have the references that are available from the CSRS and FERS Handbook, the Code of Federal Regulations, and we will talk about a few of our benefit administration letters, specifically submitting a healthy retirement application package. As you know, the handbook, the Code of Federal Regulation, and BALs will cover everything from coverage, determining retirement coverage, credible service, how to plan and apply for retirement, and everything in between. Retirement counseling is so important throughout the federal career. We find optimal times to teach our employees about retirement from the very start of their employment. So from your new hire orientation planning to key times such as mid-career, pre-retirement, and retirement eligible, we continue to educate our employees on their benefits and retirement. Educating employees about their benefits is a career-long process, which provides them the employees the needful to set and reach their retirement goals. This approach ensures that as life changes throughout their federal career, employees will be equipped with the knowledge and tools they need to make sound decisions. Employees should be aware of the age and service requirements for retire, the options to enroll and change their benefits and their assurances as life changes, and how to navigate those tools and the resources that are available to help them plan financially. By identifying and addressing these educational needs during key points throughout their federal career, we are equipping them and greatly reducing the anxieties that may come as they near retirement. When retirement planning is a part of the career planning process, employees will know how to build a solid retirement base to which they can contribute throughout their years of their government service. The agency is responsible for providing the employees an all-inclusive presentation covering all of their benefits and retirement planning tools. As I mentioned, the new employee is, although they're coming in fresh and starting and have a lot to learn, this is a great opportunity to start them off on the right foot with learning about their benefits and their total compensation, including their benefits and retirement. The newly employed federal employee at this time that are hired after 2014 are covered under the Federal Employee Retirement System, FRAE, so it's the further revised annuity employees. So these employees should understand that they are covered by the FERS and what their contributions should be. So for employees that are not under a special retirement coverage, they will be contributing 4.4% towards FERS. Previously, under FERS RAE, which is FERS Revised Annuity Employees, those employees were contributing 3.1% if they're not under a special retirement coverage. And prior to this, FERS, just Federal Employee Retirement System, those employees were contributing 0.8%. So although the contributions may vary, the benefit remains the same. You can find more information on how to determine what type of contribution these employees are on BAL 14-107, which provides additional guidance and also a contribution rate table and determination table to learn how the employees should be contributing based on their service time. Since FERS is a retirement plan that provides benefits from 3 different sources, it's important for the new employee to understand what they're paying into and why. They will be paying into FERS, which is that basic benefit. They will contribute to Social Security, which is listed on their earnings and leave statement as OASDI, standing for Old Age Survivor Disability Insurance. And also, the new employee is contributing to TSP with an automatic contribution of 3%. They should understand how to maximize that TSP benefit by if they contribute at least 5%, knowing they will get the full agency matching as well of 5%. Understanding that if they contribute anything, if they don't contribute anything at all, the agency provides an automatically 1% contribution. They will match dollar for dollar on the first 3% and then 50 cents to the dollar on the next 2 percentages. It is imperative for employees to understand their service computation date and also know that there are several of them, not just one. They should understand what their leave service computation date is, what service is included in that SCD. They should understand how that affects their leave accrual. They should understand what the retirement SCD covers and what service is included in that and why they may differ. They definitely want to know about that TSP SCD, as that also it controls their vesting date. So with 3 years of civilian service, having them vested to keep that TSP contributions, the automatic agency contribution. So you want to be able to explain to the employees all of their SCDs, what it affects, and if there's anything that they need to do, like deposits for military service or civilian service that was not covered under a retirement system, to change, or if they can change that SCD, especially when it comes to retirement. At this stage, it is very important for the employees to identify any previous service that they may have, and we want to get those records and reconstruct that SCD if necessary so that all of those accrual dates are correct. You want to make sure the employees understand the resources that are available to them, whether that is an internal retirement calculating tool, a benefits tool where they can find out what their deductions will be, such as the FEHB comparison tool or FEGLI calculator that is on the OPM's website. You give them all the knowledge, equip them with all of the knowledge that they need so that they are able to make sound decisions on their benefit election as life changes. TSP also offers several their website offers several videos and other tools to help those new employees to decide on what they want to contribute, whether it's the Roth or the traditional TSP, and explains different options on how to maximize their benefit, even having TSP calculators. So just giving them those tools to navigate the websites, understanding what all of the tools are available and resources are available to them to equip them with what they need to make sound decisions for them and their family members. Equally important is the pre-retirements. Just as important as the new employees, but employees are not quite eligible for retirement, but they're nearing the pre-retirement stage. They should be aware of what they should be financially preparing for them and their families. They want to make sure they review their records and everything is intact. Since we've already made sure that at the new employee stage that we've identified all service and we've reached out and received all of those records, we want to make sure that everything is accurate and complete in their records at that time. If they need to make changes to their records, such as beneficiary forms, they want to make sure they do that and have everything up to date and accurate at that time. They want to start thinking about their health and life insurance and what the requirements are to continue those insurances into retirement. Thinking about survivor benefits planning, what benefits will be available to their survivor upon their passing. Thinking about what is my retirement eligibility date. Already identifying what that date is and working towards that date, making sure they're both planning financially and also making sure they have the requirements for benefits to continue that into retirement. Financially planning about the commencement date of their annuity. Thinking about, there are some checklists available on OPM's website. In Chapter 40, you actually have the CSRS and FERS handbook. There are some checklists to help employees to think about what they need to do to plan for their retirement. From the insurances to ensuring their records are complete, to thinking about survivor insurance, survivor benefits, just everything in between. There are some checklists available in Chapter 40 for that, which is part of one of our references that we showed earlier. So at this time, they're already starting to thinking about their retirement date. What will my retirement date be? I now understand, you've equipped me with the knowledge and tools to understand what I need to retire. I understand the age and service requirements, but what is that date? What will that date be that I retire? So while employees may choose any date once they are eligible for retirement, for FERS, we should advise them that if they retire at the last day of the month, their annuity will begin to accrue the very next day. While CSRS can retire the last day of the month or the first, second, or third day of the month, and their annuity will also begin to accrue the very next day. They should understand that while they may choose any date that they are eligible, should they retire in the middle of the month, that it will still not begin to accrue for their retirement annuity until the first of the month, depending on their retirement system. They need to think about leave accruals. Sometimes we may choose a date of the end of the month for FERS, but it may not necessarily be the end of a pay period. So understanding how the leave accrues and knowing that if you do not work the full pay period, the leave that you're planning on happening for that lump sum payment may be a little bit different because you did not earn that last 8 hours if you have, the amount of service for 8 hours or 4 hours of sick leave, 8 hours of annual leave or 4 hours of sick leave. So understanding that that retirement date could affect my leave accrual. And so if you're planning about your gross leave lump sum payment, understanding the differences that may occur because of that. Starting to think about that interim pay status and how I need to financially plan and prepare for that. What is interim pay? That means I'm going to retire. I pick my retirement date. Am I going to receive that full retirement right away? No. So understanding that when that annuity is received, you will first be in an interim pay status, which averages anywhere from 3 to 6 plus months before your retirement is actually finalized and you have received your final annuity. So when we're selecting their retirement date, we want to think about that. Am I financially prepared for those few months or so of the interim pay status? Again, reminding them about that health and life insurance continuation, making sure they met the requirements to continue that health insurance or that life insurance should they want to carry that into retirement. So this always, before we select a mid-career or pre-retirement, thinking about all those different types of things that we need to be prepared for so that we can retire happy and stress-free. We talked a little bit about leave balances, annual leave and sick leave. So the annual leave when employees retire will be paid out in a lump sum balance, and the taxable income will be based on when that lump sum balance is received. So that could be a few weeks after retirement, and that is paid by the payroll agency. While credit for sick leave differs. For CSRS offset, and FERS, all credible unused sick leave will be converted and added to the total service time. So for a CSRS employees that may have reached 41 years and 11 months of service, they can actually exceed that maximum benefit of 80% by including that sick leave time. So it's a great benefit for all of our retirement covered employees. There is a sick leave conversion chart. You may find that as also a link to one of the references that we showed earlier in the presentation. It is the agency's responsibility to provide a retirement annuity estimate. The annuity estimate is such an important tool for a resource for our employees to properly plan for their retirement, especially financially. We want to provide them all information to make a sound decision. So if they have service time that requires a deposit, if they have military service that they may want to pay a deposit for, or they're retired military and they may want to, they're considering waiving that military retirement pay to be included in that civilian time, we want to make sure that we provide them all of these different options so that they can make a sound decision and move forward with that decision in their retirement goal. So if they have unpaid deposits or redeposits, we want to do the needful to show them how they can obtain the annuity, the statement, the account statement for that. So they, even if they choose not to pay that, they'll be aware of what the cost is and how to pay that to OPM for that to be credible towards their retirement. We want to make sure that they understand that since they're paying into Social Security, if they're under FERS, that they may be eligible for a FERS annuity supplement, which is, if they're eligible for, will be paid out to them from OPM until the age of 62. That's another counseling tip, is you want to make sure they know during interim pay, if they are eligible for FERS annuity supplement, they will not be paid this supplement during interim pay. However, it is retroactive, so it will be paid once their annuity is finalized. But that is definitely a financial planning tip that they need to understand about that FERS annuity supplement if eligible. But if you have the information, please also include that FERS annuity supplement in their estimate so that they have all those different sources of income to plan financially for retirement. Should they have several different options they're considering, they may be eligible for a minimum retirement age with 10 years of service, but also considering postponing that retirement to hopefully avoid that age reduction. Is you want to show them those options and explain how their benefits would work with both of those options. So equip them with all the tools necessary to make a great decision that they can be happy with their retirement plan and reach all of their goals. So again, going back to that new hire, the credible service is so important. We want to make sure we have identified and obtained all the records for that employee's federal career. If there's any previous civilian service for which a deposit needs to be made, we want to counsel them on this, provide them the information needed to make the decision, and help them with the procedures to submit that application to OPM to start making those payments. We want to talk about military service and understanding that if you're a FERS employee, or depending on when you were hired for a CSRS employee, that time is not credible unless a deposit is paid. Thinking about that, and also understanding that the military service must be paid while at the agency, while you do have an option to pay civilian service after retirement by lump sum payment to OPM. Because both have interest that accrue, it's definitely better to be prepared to do that earlier on in the career. That's why those retirement planning options and that planning counseling tools are so important to our employees throughout their federal career. So they have the information they need, and if they're able to make that deposit that time, or at least work towards those deposits, they can do so. Again, military deposit must be paid prior to separating from the agency. So our next slide talks about civilian service deposits for CSRS. I mentioned that depending on the dates of when service is performed could determine how that non-deduction service may affect the CSRS employee. So a deposit is the payment for a period of employment where retirement deductions were not withheld from salary. Employees are not required to make this type of payment for CSRS, but they have that option. If they want this time to be credible, depending on when that service is performed, they may want to make that deposit so that they maximize their benefit with all of their service. A deposit may be paid for credible civilian service performed before 10/1/82, during which retirement deductions were not withheld from pay. Retirement credit will be received for all of this service, whether or not the deposit is paid. However, unless the deposit is paid in full, at retirement, that annual benefit will be reduced by 10% of the deposit, including interest. A redeposit is the repayment of retirement deductions that were previously withheld and refunded plus interest. If the employee didn't make a redeposit or a refund for a period of service that ended before March 1st of 1991, this monthly annuity will be actuarially reduced based on the amount of the redeposit due, including interest, divided by a factor for their age at retirement. If the refund was for a period of service that ended after March 1st of 1991, if the redeposit is not paid, the employee would not receive credit for this service in the computation of their annuity. CSRS employees would complete the standard form 2803 application to make deposit or deposit, which is certified by their Human Resources Office. Once submitted to OPM, OPM will send the employee an account statement along with payment instructions. Once notified of the amounts due, employees will have what is needed to decide whether or not to begin those payments. Employees should be counseled that although they may complete this payment after retirement by lump sum by OPM, their annuity would not be finalized until this decision is reached within the time allotted, and this could cause a delay in the final computation of the annuity. For our FERS employees, they also could have non-deduction service performed before January 1st of 1989. That non-deduction service, with a few exceptions, such as Peace Corps and Vista, are not eligible to make a deposit after January 1st, 1999 for non-deduction service. However, service performed before January 1st, 1989, they may make a deposit similar to CSRS. If a FERS employee does not make a deposit for non-deduction service, that time is not creditable at all towards their retirement or eligibility. For refunded service, if they do not pay for that period of type of service, they will receive credit and determine eligibility to retire, but will not receive credit for this service in the computation of the retirement benefit. Interest is charged from the date of the refund and compounded annually, and interest is charged to the date full payment is made or the date annuity begins, whichever is earlier. We spoke a little bit about military service. So we have many of our federal employees that have performed honorable active duty service or may have even retired from the military. We need to explain all of their options in both situations. The employees that have had post-1956 military time should know what their options are as far as a military deposit, as well as what the deposit amount due will be. Remember that this must be paid at the agency. This must be paid prior to retirement at the agency. If the employee is considering, like I mentioned earlier, waiving that military retired pay, making sure they understand what that involves, as well as providing an estimate of that so they can compare that military retirement pay, the deposit owed if should they waive it, as well as what the civilian retirement will be with that military retirement waived.
Retirement eligibility is another important aspect of retirement counseling. Helping understand why and how employees are eligible will help employees make the right decision in choosing the type of retirement that best meets their wants and needs. Agencies are encouraged to help employees understand the difference between each type of option and walk them through understanding what each type requires. We know that the most common type of retirement is under a regular or voluntary optional retirement, where an annuity begins to accrue immediately. Now, for this type of retirement, the employee needs to be 60 years old with a minimum of 5 years of service, or be 60 years old and have 20 years of service. Certain employees may also qualify under this voluntary option without any age reduction if under CSRS, if there are 55 with 30 years of service and under first, they may retire at their minimum retirement age, or commonly referred to as the MRA, which may be between 55 and 57, depending on the year they are born, with 30 years of service, or at their MRA with 20 years of service. Now, some employees may be interested in retiring under a voluntary early retirement authority, or VERA, otherwise known as an early out. However, they need to understand that this option is only available when the agency is able to provide them with this option. VERA is an option used to assist agencies in completing a major personnel or workload change with minimum disruption. So in this case, employees need to be 50 years old and have 20 years of service, or any age with 25 years of service, in order to be eligible to accept a VERA early out retirement option. The employee must be serving in a covered position to be able to take this option and be serving in that position for at least 30 days. They must separate during the VERA period and be off the rolls by the close of the VERA period. It's important that employees understand that this is a requirement if they decide to choose a VERA option. Other employees may qualify under a discontinued service retirement, and this is a type of retirement available to employees who are involuntarily separated and who receive a written notice of involuntary separation. That written notice will be, it needs to be included as part of the retirement package in order to qualify for a DSR annuity. Examples of DSR include reduction in force, abolishment of positions, and lack of funds. If separation was due to misconduct, then the employee will not be eligible for a DSR. So it's important to know the distinction and be able to explain to employees the distinction that will qualify them for a DSR. Certain employees may qualify as well for disability retirement if they meet a comprehensive list of requirements only after an employee has provided the agency with complete documentation of their medical condition and the agency has exhausted all attempts to retain the employee either by reasonable accommodations or reassignment. Under FERS, an employee must have completed at least 18 months of federal civilian credible service in order to apply for a disability, while under CSRS, they must have completed 5 years of service and be any age. Now, under this disability provisions, employees need to understand that the disability must have occurred prior to retirement, and the disability should be expected to last for more than 1 year. The disability does not have to be work-related in order to receive an annuity from OPM. Employees covered under FERS who separate from government service before meeting the age and service requirements necessary for a voluntary optional annuity can qualify for a deferred retirement, where they can start collecting their annuity at a later date when they turn age 62, or at their MRA if they have 10 years of service. Now, if a first employee separates after reaching their MRA with at least 10 years of service, they can postpone receiving their annuity until the appropriate age to reduce or eliminate the age reduction. With this option, the key thing to understand is that employees can suspend their health and life insurance benefits until they start collecting their annuity. They are going to have the option to elect when their annuity can begin, but they must start withdrawing at age 62. Employees that choose this type of retirement can later apply directly with OPM by filling the application for deferred or postponed retirement, which is the RI 92-19, within 60 days before they want this benefit to begin. There are also certain laws that allow law enforcement officers, air traffic controllers, firefighters, or military reserve technicians, personnel to retire at any age with 25 years of service or at age 50 with 20 years of service. For those of you that are interested in learning more about this special type of retirement, we have a separate webcast on our YouTube channel called First Law Enforcement and Firefighters Special Retirement Provisions, which discusses in depth the special retirement for these type of employees. Keep in mind that an employee may be eligible for more than one type of retirement, but as always, it is the employee's choice on which option to elect. Now, like Joy stated, agencies are responsible for providing employees with a retirement annuity estimate. So when an employee receives their annuity estimate, there may be some questions regarding how their annuity was calculated. Agencies are encouraged to use this estimate to allow employees to see which factors were used in calculating their annuity. The first factor, as many of you guys know, it's their high 3 salary, which is based on the highest average basic pay earned during any 3 consecutive years of service. These 3 years are usually towards the end of an employee's service, but be aware that it can occur at an earlier period if the basic pay was higher during that period. The other factor used in the computation is length of service or years of credible service, which is all periods of credible service both under civilian and military service and any unused sick leave. Make sure employees have submitted all deposits and redeposits so that all their service is included in their computation. Another key point in an employee's annuity is the first supplement, like Joy stated earlier. Employees must have completed at least 1 calendar year of first service and must be under the age of 62 to be eligible. The supplement is going to stop when the retiree turns 62, even if the annuitant is not eligible for Social Security benefits or if they choose not to apply. So this is an important aspect to counsel your employees on, that it will terminate once they turn 62. Those employees that chose a DSR or VERA retirement option will receive the supplement once they reach their MRA. However, those that are collecting a deferred disability or MIA plus 10 retirement annuity are not eligible to receive the supplement. Knowing how these factors are used in their computation will help employees better prepare for retirement and perhaps considering delaying their retirement date or even postponing their annuity. It's important to also let your employees know that they will be receiving an annuity payment once a month, which is paid each month. That covers the period for the previous month. They will also want to know that annuity payments are a lifelong benefit and will only terminate on the date the annuitant dies or other terminated events provided by law. It's important also to discuss reductions to the annuity. Use that retirement estimate to help employees understand that they may have their annuity reduced due to several factors. The first one is age. If the employee retired under the MRA plus 10 provision, for example, their benefit will be reduced by 5% for every year that the employee is under age 62 on the date the annuity begins. However, the annuity will not be reduced if they completed at least 30 years of service, or if they have at least 20 years of service and their annuity begins when they reach age 60. Now, if they choose to postpone the beginning date of their annuity, the age reduction will be eliminated if they start collecting at age 62. Now, the age reduction applies to both CSRS and FERS components of the annuity. If they transfer to FERS and part of their annuity is computed under the CSRS provisions. CSRS employees retiring under a VERA or a DSR incur a 2% reduction for each full year of every month that they're under the age 55. This is a permanent reduction that will not go away when they turn 55. So make sure the employees understand this, that this is a permanent reduction to their annuities. Another factor that may reduce their annuity is survivor benefits. If they're married, their annuity will be reduced for a survivor benefit unless their spouse consents to their election of less than a full survivor benefit. If the total of the survivor benefit they elect equals 50% of their benefit, then the annuity is going to be reduced by 10%, and if the total equals 25, then the reduction is 5%. For CSRS survivor benefits, the cost is going to be 2.5% of the first $3,600 of the selected base annuity, plus 10% of any remaining selected base. Other reductions to the annuity will be based on unpaid or refunded service, like Joy explained. Remind employees that if they did not pay a deposit for CSRS non-deduction service performed before October 182, their annuity will be reduced by 10% of any deposit owed. And if they did not make a redeposit for CSRS refunded service performed before October 1 of 1990, they will have a CSRS portion of their non-disability benefit reduced by an actuarial factor. Now, under FERS, employees need to be aware that they will not receive any credit on their annuity for non-deduction service performed after January 1, 1989. Now, for CSRS offset employees, there will be a reduction or offset at the age of 62 if they're eligible for Social Security benefits by an amount equal to the Social Security benefit they earned as a CSRS offset employee. They need to know that the offset is automatic and will happen if they don't apply for a Social Security benefit. Employees also need to consider deductions to their monthly annuity. For example, health and life insurance premiums and federal tax withholdings, which we will discuss next on slide number 18. They will need to account for federal and maybe state tax withholdings from their monthly annuity check as well. Generally, unless they specify a monthly withholding rate amount on their retirement application by submitting a new W-4 or indicating they want to keep the same withholdings they had as an employee, OPM will withhold federal income tax as if they were married and claiming 3 allowances. Okay? They may also submit the W-4 PA, which is their election of federal income tax withholding to OPM after they retire and change those withholdings. And they may also do that those changes online once they are retired. OPM will provide a Form 1099-R detailing the annuity payments received during the previous year. Annuitants receive this form around the first or second week of February, just in time to file their taxes. And agencies may get a lot of questions about this form even after an employee retires, so make sure to let them know that OPM is the one that will issue that 1099-R. Now, if employees wish to have state tax withheld from their annuity, they must specify a dollar amount of the state tax they want withheld from their payments. The withholding must be in whole dollars, and the minimum amount we can withhold for state income tax is $5. They can also do this elections online. They can start, change, or stop state tax withholdings during using the annuitant portal. Now, in most cases, retirees will receive a cost of living adjustment or COLA. Now, it's important to advise employees and make sure that they understand that only in certain situations they will be allowed to have this increase in their annuity payments. For both CSRS and FERS employees and their survivor dependents, the amount will be based on the rate of inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index. The 2019 COLA rate for CSRS this year is 2.8%, while the FERS is 2.0%, and this actually came out in October of 2018. Now, the COLA rates are going to be, increases are going to be effective on December 1 of each year and are applied to the annuity payments made the following month. It will appear on the first business day of January. COLAs for those retired less than 1 year are actually prorated according to the date in which they retired. For example, if an employee retires in January, their first adjustment will be made in January of the following year and will be prorated for 11 months of the COLA amount. If they retire in February, it will be prorated for 10 months and so forth. For CSRS employees, the increased percentage is going to be applied to their monthly benefit amount before any deduction, and it's going to be rounded down to the next whole dollar. Now, the COLA for FERS is a little bit different, and your FERS retirees need to understand that they will not be able to to receive a COLA increase until after reaching age 62. The first COLA increase is calculated differently than CSRS. If the increase in the CPI is 2% or less, the COLA is equal to the CPI increase. If the CPI increase is more than 2%, but no more than 3%, then that COLA is going to be adjusted to 2%. If the CPI increase is more than 3%, then the adjustment is 1% less than the CPI increase. And that new amount is going to be rounded down to the next whole dollar. Additional information on COLAs can always be found on the OPM website or on Chapter 2 of the CSRS and FERS Handbook. Now, in preparing for retirement, employees need to know that their health and life insurance coverage normally must be in effect continuously for at least 5 years before their retirement date, or they'll be ineligible to carry this important benefits into retirement. The employees also have to have been retired under an immediate annuity and be covered under the FEHB on the date of retirement. And this is important for employees to understand. If they were covered under another coverage, either through their spouse's FEHB or TRICARE, and they would like to continue FEHB on their own as a retiree, they must be enrolled prior. So it's always recommended for employees to enroll during the previous open season before they retire. Now, OPM has the authority to waive the 5-year participation requirement when it determines that it would be against equity and good conscience not to allow a person to be enrolled in the FEHB program as an annuitant. However, the law specifically states that it must be due to exceptional circumstances, so OPM almost never grants this waiver. Now, the premiums for FEHB will be the same for the annuitant as they were for the employee. However, they will be withheld on a monthly basis rather than biweekly basis because the annuitants only receive one payment a month, and they will be deducted on a post-tax basis since retirees will not be eligible, are not eligible for premium conversion. Now, employees face a very important survivor benefit decision at retirement. If they elect a survivor benefit, it can provide their surviving spouses with both a monthly annuity check and continuation of their FEHB coverage for the rest of their life, unless, of course, they remarry before age 55. So making sure that employees understand that a surviving spouse can only carry FEHB coverage after the annuitant dies if a survivor annuity was elected. Without a survivor benefit, the spouse loses coverage 31 days after the retiree's death. Now, if the annuity of the retiree or the spouse's survivor annuity doesn't cover the monthly premium, the premium can be paid directly to OPM. Now, you may have some employees that may want to cancel their FEHB, either because they're going under a spouse's coverage or for any other reasons. They need to understand that they will never be able to re-enroll unless they suspend it to enroll in a Medicare managed care plan or if they're eligible for Medicaid. If they do choose to cancel their coverage, it won't be effective until after the starting date of their annuity. Okay. It's also good to remind employees that retiring is not a qualifying life event. They won't be able to change enrollment at retirement. However, once they retire, they can change their enrollment during the annual open season or when they experience a qualifying life event. If the employee is not eligible to continue health benefits coverage into retirement, the agency must advise individuals of their right to temporarily continue coverage under TCC. They must, though, understand that they will be responsible for paying both the employee and the government shares of the monthly premium, plus that 2% administrative charge. Now, some employees may have already been eligible for Medicare if they're age 65. For those retirees that are not, they will become eligible under both FERS and CSRS when they turn 65. They will be eligible for Parts A, which is hospital insurance, and Part B, which is medical or physician's services. The Social Security Administration will automatically contact their retiree about enrolling in these plans. They will also have the option to enroll in Medicare Advantage Plans C, which is a private healthcare choice like an HMO, or Part D, which is prescription drug coverage. However, they need to be aware for that Parts B through D are optional, and there is a cost associated with in enrolling in these options. Your employees can always visit Medicare.gov for more information on the cost and eligibility. Now, once retirees, elect to enroll in Medicare, Medicare will be the primary payer, and FEHB will be secondary. This is important because they will need to know how the coordination of benefits will pay out when they receive medical bills. Like I mentioned earlier, if an employee cancels their FEHB enrollment as an annuitant, they will never be able to re-enroll in FEHB. However, they may suspend their enrollment in order to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, TRICARE, Peace Corps, Medicare, or a similar state-sponsored program of medical assistance. They cannot suspend their FEHB enrollment if they're covered by Medicare Parts A and or B only. In retirement, annuitants can only apply to suspend their coverage at any time by contacting our retirement information office and submitting all necessary documentation to show eligibility for TRICARE during the period beginning 31 days before and ending 31 days after the date they become eligible under TRICARE or another program. Now, once they suspend FEHB coverage, they can later voluntarily re-enroll during an annual open season. We will send open season packages each year with instructions on how to re-enroll. But if they involuntarily lose coverage under one of the programs mentioned on this slide, they can enroll in FEHB effective the date after they lose coverage if they provide evidence of involuntary loss of coverage. Now, if they wish to cancel their enrollment for any reasons other than to be covered under a family's FEHB enrollment, they will not be able to re-enroll in FEHB and will not be entitled to receive the free 31-day extension of coverage or to enroll in TCC. Those are the major differences between canceling and suspending FEHB in retirement. Remember, it is the agency's responsibility to assist the employee in completing their retirement package, but remind employees that there may be some processing delays in their application if there's missing or inaccurate information. We found that there were several factors that would cause processing delays in regards to health benefits. The single most common error found in retirement package was failure to document the 5 years of coverage or from first eligibility and through all periods of eligibility if less than 5 years. We would like documentation of an employee's coverage for their entire career if possible, but at a minimum, we must have proof of the 5 years of coverage immediately prior to retirement. About 12-103, which is titled Submitting Healthy Retirement Packages, states some of the acceptable alternative proof of coverage. One is they can submit the SF-2809, which is the health benefits election form, or the 2810, the notice of change in health benefits enrollment as proof. They can also provide history reports from online enrollments that show the enrollments, copies of screenshots or other documentation. But for a more comprehensive list, you can always visit that BAL 12-103. Another factor in processing delays is failure to submit the certification of eligibility of the 5-year enrollment requirement when an employee appears to be eligible under a VERA. The certification of eligibility must be submitted with the retirement application. We've also published several webcasts describing form by form what information we're looking for to enable agencies to complete and accurate packages that will avoid delays in those packages. Now, it is important for employees to understand. We're on life insurance, slide number 26. It's important for employees to understand how their FEGLI benefits will change into retirement. They need to know how to elect affordable coverage before making a retirement election. There are multiple online resources that will help them understand these options and how much they will have to pay per month of the coverage they need. The first thing that they need to consider is that just like FEHB, they're eligible to continue basic and optional life insurance if they have been enrolled in FEGLI for at least 5 years immediately preceding retirement. Employees must also be enrolled in FEGLI on the date of retirement. The employee will have the option to retain the full amount of their basic FEGLI coverage or elect a coverage reduction for their basic coverage amount. They'll have to choose the amount of basic insurance they want to continue after age 65 or at retirement if they have already reached age 65. The choices are a 75% reduction, a 50% reduction, or not reduction. But have your employees use that FEGLI calculator on the OPM website to help them determine the value of the various combinations of the FEGLI coverage. It will also help them calculate the premiums for the different combinations of coverage, and it will show them how to choose different options, and they will be able to see how the life insurance carried into retirement will change over time as well. This is a great tool where they can quickly and easily find estimates about continuing coverage into retirement. Coverage for optional coverage, optional coverage into retirement is a little different. When they retired and reach age 65, Option 8 coverage automatically begins to reduce by 2% of the pre-retirement amount each month until 25% of the pre-retirement amount remains. Option 8 is free once it starts to reduce. There is no reduction election to make at the time of retirement for Option A. Now, employees must choose, however, how many of their Option B and or C multiples coverage they want to continue. Now, the cost of B multiple coverage, if they choose to keep it into retirement, becomes very expensive and increases with age. And retirees must carry basic insurance in order to elect any of the 3 options. Unlike basic enrollment, though, optional insurance is voluntary, and they must apply for and select the options they need and can afford. Again, using that FEGLI calculator on the OPM website will help them determine the best option that they can afford into retirement and the option that they need to cover their loved ones. Now, if the retiree changes their minds once they start collecting their annuities, they may cancel basic or optional at any time unless they have assigned their life insurance. They need to know that they cannot increase their coverage after retirement or reinstate it if they had canceled it at retirement. Just like FEHB, we found several factors with submitting FEGLI documentation for coverage after retirement that would impact an employee's retirement application. Again, it's important for employees to know these type of situations that could delay their application. The first common error found is, again, providing that documentation of 5 years of eligibility. We want to see an employee's coverage for the entire career. We'll accept the SF 2817 life insurance election form and the SF 50 showing any FEGLI changes in the 5 years immediately prior to retirement as acceptable proof of coverage. Also be aware that we will not accept corrections on the form, any scratch outs, whiteouts, lineouts, or any other type of correction actions in either the continuation of life insurance coverage, the 2818, or the designation of beneficiary for FEGLI, which is the standard form 2823. Now, new forms must be completed in lieu of any alterations to previous for any corrections made on these forms. About 16-102, however, provides additional guidance on corrections made on certain benefits elections. Now, employees may also be able to carry their dental, vision, and long-term care benefits into their retirement. They will not have they do not have that 5-year rule to continue these benefits. The only interesting point that employees need to know is that they should contact benefits directly to make arrangements for premium payments prior to receiving an annuity. Annuitants may enroll as long as they're eligible for FEHB, regardless of their FEHB status, as long as they retire on an immediate retirement. Under the Federal Long-Term Care Insurance Program, or FLTCIP, retirees and qualified relatives are eligible to continue benefits, and just like FEDBIP, they must make arrangements with LTC partners to ensure that there's no interruption of their premium payments. There are no government contributions made towards long-term care premiums, and retirees will have similar plan options to those as they had as employees. Now, unlike FEDBIP and long-term care, employees are not able to continue their flexible spending accounts or FSAs into retirement. The law allows FSA allotments only from salaries, not annuities. So FSA coverage will terminate. However, it will terminate at retirement. However, any reimbursable expenses made prior to the retirement will be reimbursed or paid once the claim is submitted. Let's talk about TSP. As we all know, TSP offers several options for withdrawing the monies from your account. When making the decision about what to do with their funds, employees should be encouraged to think about their income needs and the lifestyles they would like to have after retirement. Hopefully, they'll be TSP millionaires where they won't have to worry so much, but that may not necessarily be the case for most of us. The decision that retirees will have to make on withdrawing their money depends on their specific goals. Do they need money right away for an important purchase? Do they want to avoid paying taxes for as long as possible? Do they want to receive a payment every month? Do they want guaranteed income to last them a lifetime? So considering all these options, their personal goals is what's going to help them determine what kind of withdrawal options they want to take. Retirees will have two main options for withdrawing their TSP fund. They can make either a partial withdrawal or a full withdrawal. Under a partial withdrawal, it allows them to make a one-time only withdrawal and leave the rest of the money in the TSP fund until a later date. They can also withdraw their money all at once over a period of time, or they can purchase an annuity that will make payments to them for life. For maximum flexibility, though, they can choose any combinations of the full withdrawal options. Now, if they decide to leave their money in the TSP, they will no longer be able to make contributions into the account. But their funds will continue to accrue interest. TSP will notify them that they must, at what point they need to start receiving payments, essentially withdrawing the funds by April 1 of the year following the year in which they turn age 70 and a half. So at 70 and a half years old, they will have to start making some of the those withdrawals. Really, the withdrawal decision should be based on whether or not they have other resources of retirement income. All of their resources, should be taken into account when making these decisions. Now, they should also be aware of possible tax penalties on early withdrawals. In general, TSP withdrawal payments are subject to federal income tax. However, different tax rules will apply to different withdrawal options as well as to the type of money, whether it was traditional or Roth contributions that are included in that funds, in the funds. Now, while in retirement, retirees will not be able to make contributions or take out TSP loans, but they can certainly move the funds around, and make inter-fund transfer as they wish. There's a great deal of resources available on the TSP website that can help employees determine the best TSP withdrawal option for them. They have access to retirement income calculators, a monthly payment calculator, and different publications on cash outs, taxes, distributions, and also information on possible changes in withdrawal options. Now, once agencies complete counseling employees about their benefits and retirees, it's important to sit down and review the completed application with the employee, ensuring that all blocks are properly marked and that it has been signed. Explain to the employee how the retirement application will be processed by your agency and then later by OPM. Explain to them how agencies will audit and organize the retirement package to make sure the certified summary of federal service, the agency checklist are completed, as well as FEHB and FEGLI documentation is included. Then they will send the applications to OPM after payroll certifies all the deductions. Another talking point would be to making sure the employee understands that OPM cannot begin to process a retirement annuity until after receiving a completed application and all supporting documentation of that employee's service history. Explain how payroll's responsibility in the process. They're authorized to make that final paycheck of in lump sum payment for unused annual leave. They're also responsible for issuing and closing out the IRR, whether it's the SF 2806 for CSRS or the 3100 for FERS, which reflects all the service history, all the salary history, the contributions, and then forwarding that information to OPM. If the retirees get a thorough understanding of how the process works, it will make them feel more comfortable with the process, which in turn can alleviate many misunderstandings after retirement. Now, always encourage verifying service is the next slide number 32. I think it's important to always encourage employees to do their due diligence when there's missing service history in their packages. Allow them the opportunity to find missing documents on their own, maybe providing them with the key contacts if needed. Now, if they're not successful, then the agencies should certainly step in and try to find the information through their sources by first contacting, the Federal Records Center or by checking the Retirement Data Viewer or EHRI. Now, if an agency's benefit officer does not have access to an EHRI, they can contact their OPM liaison for more information on how to request access. Now, if none of these sources work, agencies can always fax the request for a missing service history to our Boyers at fax number 724-794-6633. Now remember that fax number is only to be used by agencies processing retirement estimates. Now if an employee is requesting information on their own, they can always write OPM for that request, right directly to our retirement operations mailing address, which is in one of our upcoming slides. Priority is always going to be given to the agency request because they're processing retirement estimates. So the agency will always get the priority for that information. Now, if all else fails, OPM will complete the verification at retirement of any missing service upon receipt of the application and the rest of the records. However, this can cause significant delays in the processing of that retirement. Again, employees should be aware of some of the most common errors in processing retirement so that they can avoid making them and avoid having their package delayed, and hopefully assisting the agencies in trying to fill in any of the gaps. This information, again, can be found on BAL 12-103, which discusses submitting healthy retirement packages. The first one is missing periods of credible civilian and military services. Again, all periods of credible civilian and military services must be listed on that certified summary of service. Also, if a married applicant elects less than the full survivor annuity, remember the spousal consent must be provided, and the election on the application must agree with the spousal consent. This will require certification by a notary. So the notary's signature date must match the spouse's signature date. That's very important. The retirement application must not be turned in more than a year later from the date that the notary signed application. We actually have received a lot of those inquiries regarding the different dates after the notary signs that certification. And of course, a marriage certificate must always be included with those elections. And now for each period of service not covered by retirement contributions or FICA only service, all pay rates and effective dates must be listed on the application. Lastly, if an employee is receiving or had previously applied for military retired pay or benefits from the VA in lieu of military retired pay, make sure to attach copies of the military service determination if the employee's military disability retirement was service-connected and incurred in a combat or caused by an instrumentality of war. This information is needed to assure correct credit for that military service is applied to their benefit. Now, the main thing to remember about a retirement application is that it must be complete in an original form, signed by the applicant, in ink and dated, and all questions must be answered, and all applicable boxes checked in all areas requiring initials also need to be initial. So reminding employees of all these little things and walking them through the process will help avoid a lot of these common errors. Now here's a summary of our roles in assisting employees throughout their pre- and post-retirement journey. Active federal employees need to know who they can contact for advice, and retirees should also know the correct points of contact after separation. For example, before they retire, their key contact should be an agency's benefits representative or their retirement counselor. They can also access OPM website for retirement planning resources such as the FEGLI calculator and the ballpark estimator. During their retirement process, employees should keep in contact with their retirement counselors, make sure that all their information is correct, all the documentation is submitted, updated addresses are given. If they need to make any beneficiary changes, they should do so at this point. If they need to update their records on a divorce or a death, these are some of the retirement counselor is the key contact there. After retirement, then retirees, will have OPM as their point of contact. They'll receive their claim number, or CSA number, which is essentially almost like an employee ID number, after OPM receives their application. A password will be emailed to them to that mailing address on file. Now, we encourage all retirees to read all the OPM mailings, even if it doesn't look like it's a valid or legit OPM correspondence. OPM still sends a lot of snail mail, so it would be good for them to make sure that they're reading anything that they receive from us. They can always call or log into retirement services. Now, retirement services is essentially an online portal where employees can essentially have access anywhere, anytime. They can make all these changes, change their withholdings, their mailing address. They can change allotments, set up checking or savings allotments, change their direct deposit information, and also view and print their annuity statements or the verification of income, which I know a lot of agencies receive requests or at least information on where to get those. So services online is a key point. I didn't mean to skip slide 35. I wanted to go back to it and just remind everybody of our the OPM Retirement Operations contact information, their main phone number, and the email address. Now, local employees and retirees can stop by our retirement information walk-in office located here in our main building if they wish, here at 1900 East Street, room 1323. That's always an option, like I said, for our local employees and retirees. And the business hours for that is 8 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, or 8:30 to 3 p.m. on Fridays. Here's just some additional talking points to have with your employees as they get ready to retire. Encourage them to keep their families in the loop about a lot of their retirement benefits, how to contact OPM regarding survivor benefits, the forms that they will need to be completed, where to find their retirement claim number, that CSA number. Also, provide information to their families about other benefits they may be eligible for under military service or Social Security. Provide their families with life insurance, pay information, their TSP account information, also bank account, information and where their benefits are currently being paid. Also, any unpaid compensation that they're eligible for. All these key things will help families sort of navigate any, these benefits that retirees are eligible for. That could assist them in that process. They also need to remember to keep their designations of beneficiary current. If they do not remember who they have designated, they can always complete new forms to ensure the appropriate person is designated and will receive those benefits upon their death. All the forms can be downloaded online. And again, make sure that employees are reminded that upon retirement to read all of our OPM correspondence.
Okay. We have now reached the end of our webcast. As we wait for questions to come in, which may be emailed to benefits@opm.gov, and again, add retirement counseling tips in the subject line. I want to take this opportunity to mention that we have had some agencies to inquire about corrections needed for the standard form 2821, that agency certification of insurance, due to the retroactive pay adjustment for those retired after January 6th. The answer is no, there is not a need to correct the standard form 2821 form due to that retroactive pay adjustment. However, the individual retirement record must be accurate and correct. Must be accurate. We also want to announce that we have been receiving many inquiries regarding our upcoming benefits conference. Yes, there will be a benefit conference coming up pretty soon, and information will be forthcoming through our benefits listserv. At this time, we can only announce that the location is in Florida, and it will be held in a week in August or September. And we'll wait for any questions that may come. Thank you for attending our webcast.
All right, the first question. I have worked for several agencies as a military spouse. Will this slow down the process of receiving my full retirement benefits? And also, I understand it can take up to 90 days before you receive full benefits. Is this true?
I can relate to that question. As a military spouse, I also have worked at many agencies. The great thing is, like I mentioned in the first part of the presentation, it's so important when we transfer or as a new hire to identify all of the agencies we've worked for so that the agency can collect that information. You should be able to see all of your service in your official personnel folder or OPF to verify that all your service is there. So there are many employees throughout their federal career that may move and have several agencies that they work for, but our OPF should contain all of that service. So you should be able to review that and make sure that everything is complete there. So I encourage you to do that.
I agree with Joy, and also making sure and recognizing if there's any gaps in service history and how that will change your service computation dates. And I believe there was a second part to the question.
Yes. I understand it can take up at least 90 days before you receive full retirement benefits. Is this true?
The full annuity?
Yes.
If the question is in regards to receiving, to that period between, receiving interim pay and the full monthly annuity. Yes, it really just depends on an employee's, retiree's application package, whether, there's any missing information, whether there's anything that that the agent, that OPM will need to clarify with the agency. But yes, for the most part, we anticipate about 90 to 120 days for that full annuity to kick in.
All right, second question. Where can an employee find their retirement SED? Our agency does not use a retirement summary benefits report like other agencies do.
Okay, that is definitely a part I would talk with your retirement counselor about. Is you're correct. You only see that leave SED in most cases. People are aware of that leave SED because of our length of a service awards. It is using that leave SED. Also, what's printed on the standard form 50 also is showing that leave service computation date. And as I mentioned, depending on your service, whether that was temporary service or you have unpaid military service, that leave SED and retirement service computation date definitely can differ. So I would reach out to, they may be coded, but each agency works differently. So this is a question for your Human Resources Office just to verify that what your retirement service computation date is. They have some internal systems that sometimes do show that. You can see what your retirement service computation date is. So you may want to check there as well, but your agency will be the contact for that.
All right, next question. Can you elaborate more on the interim payment? I'm assuming it's less than the final retirement paycheck. How much less is it?
Okay. Normally, interim pay could be anywhere between 75 to 85% of your full annuity benefit that you would receive once your retirement package is fully adjudicated here at OPM. So we encourage retirees to think about that and try to work that into their financial planning once they retire. If they have other sources for income, if they need to tap into their TSP funds, just thinking about how that interim pay, that the difference between the interim pay and the annuity, the full annuity benefit, can impact their finances within that period.
All right, next question. Where can an individual go to learn more about military deposits?
You can find information on opm.gov. We do have some tabs available for about service. There are several actually webcasts also on our YouTube channel that talk specifically about military deposits. The agency may also have it on their internal website as far as how do you request your earnings, as that's usually the first step, is utilizing your DD-214, requesting those earnings from DFAS, and once you obtain those earnings, you would submit that to your agency to receive a military deposit estimate and payment procedures. So it's kind of two ways. You can find general information, like I said, on our website. We have a webcast specifically for military deposits explaining everything, and also our CSRS and First Handbook talks about military service as well. But so it's a combination of those things from the resources that I mentioned there, and also working with your agency on what the procedural process is for obtaining that military deposit information and making a decision on that.
Next question. How far in advance should a retirement package be submitted to ensure it is completed in time?
If they're referring to in time before the date of retirement, I mean, normally agencies will make sure that a retirement package is completed at the time of retirement. Then it will be sent to payroll and then submitted to OPM. But always work with your retirement counselor as far as meeting those specific internal requirements of when they want you to have a complete retirement package. It may be that, they want you to start working on it 6 months prior to your elected date. If that's not reasonable, then maybe 3 months out. But always work with your retirement counselor on and having those discussions on submitting your retirement packages in a timely manner before your retirement is official.
All right, next question. If the state withholding form is included with the retirement package, will OPM apply the requested state withholding upon adjudication?
So during interim pay, as we mentioned, only the federal taxes will be taken out. Once the annuity is finalized, that is an opportunity to start your state taxes. You can also do this on services online. We just show a slide where as soon as you receive that information, which will be a booklet included to show that your annuity is finalized and what those final details of your retirement are, you may at that time, that could be your trigger to remind you that, I need to get my state taxes started up again. And go right on services online. It's a quick and easy way to make those changes to your state taxes once everything is finalized.
Under the postponed retirement, is there any special requirement to be completed to suspend their FEHB and FEGLI option until they apply for their retirement?
No, there's no special requirement besides the main the main factors of continuing FEHB and FEGLI into retirement. Just meeting those requirements, the 5-year, prior 5 years of enrollment before retirement. So just meeting those essential requirements before postponing or before suspending your benefits. And postponing your retirement or your annuity, really. So no, there are no special requirements besides the main eligibility factors.
Okay. How far back can you buy back temporary government work time before FICA service? I was told that there was talk about extending the original cutoff date to a later date range.
If this is for a first employee at this time, the date remains the same, being that the only deposit service eligible to make a deposit, rather that non-deduction service eligible to make a deposit, is the service performed prior to January 1st, 1989.
Okay. If the employee has been under TRICARE and not FEHB for their entire federal career, are they able to enroll in FEHB at retirement?
Yes, the 5-year requirement period can include the time the employee is covered under TRICARE as long as they were covered under an FEHB enrollment at the time of retirement. For planning purposes, the employee may want to consider enrolling in the FEHB plan during the open season, like I said, just prior to their retirement date. So it's important to understand the difference between being enrolled in FEHB at the time of retirement and being eligible to carry FEHB into retirement. While they may have met the 5-year requirement period with TRICARE, they still have to be, if they want to keep or enroll in FEHB into retire as a retiree, then they must have been enrolled in FEHB themselves prior to retirement.
Okay. When is the next training opportunity?
We have a few more webcasts scheduled this year. On June 25th, we will have a FERCA question and answers webcast. We will also have a deferred, postponed retirement and phased retirement updates webcast on August 6th of this year. We have 2 scheduled FERCA classes coming up as well, May 7th and July 9th.
All right. Next question. Can you repeat the fax number for verifying service to OPM?
Yes, that fax number is 724-794-6633.
Next question. Could you explain the postponed retirement again, the difference between deferred and postponed?
So deferred retirement is for, and you can find this this is explanation actually on our website under retirement on opm.gov under retirement. It does show you all of the different retirement types. Deferred retirement, as we know, you can earn an annuity with only 5 years of service, but you may not yet have the age. So you defer your retirement to receive the benefits once you've met the age as well as service. You can apply to OPM to receive that retirement. While postponed retirement is for employees that have at least 10 years of service, and they're also postponing not receiving that benefit right away. Maybe they're trying to avoid an early age reduction like the minimum retirement age plus 10. So they may postpone their retirement and meet the requirements because they've had the 5 years of their health insurance and that 10 years where they can postpone, pick up that benefit at a later date, and also at that time continue health and life insurances. So it's a difference in the length of service required, as well as the eligibility to continue benefits between the deferred versus the postponed, and the MRA plus 10 as well. Several retirement options.
Okay, next question. How long does it currently take OPM to make decisions on disability retirement cases?
Well, as always, it's very unique. So every disability retirement package is very unique in that, medical examiners must determine eligibility for each specific case. So at this time, no, there is no specific timeline. Some disability retirement applications get adjudicated a little bit faster than others, and it all depends on the unique circumstances of the medical condition and of that specific applicant.
Okay. Is the retirement pay and Social Security supplement payment issued in one check, or will separate checks be received?
The first, so if, the first annuity supplement will be included in your, as part of your monthly annuity payment. There will not be a separate check issued because it's part of your first annuity compensation benefit, essentially, after retirement.
And just a comment here. We got a few questions about the proposed move to GSA. Currently, there are no anticipated changes in how retirement services does business. And with that, it's 2:30. We will respond to the rest of the questions in the inbox that we did not get to.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.